Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, before I get started, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Racha HaKwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. To you I say shalom. This is the brother Yeshaya from the Great Millstone Charlotte Camp, coming at you again through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, with another lesson. Lord willing, this be edifying. And this one's going to be entitled "A Recession Is Coming." Okay, and I'm not going to make this too long. I just got all the guys in the article I want to go into and a couple precepts, you know. But yeah, not going to make this too long, and Lord willing, this be edifying. So I'm gonna start off with this article. This is from Fortune.com, and it says, "Fodder for a recession." Top economist Mark Zandi warns about so many Americans already living on the financial edge in a K-shaped economy, right? So you have your top economist, Mark Zandi. You know, he's talking about a recession coming. You know, how there's gonna be a lot of people. There's gonna be fodder. You know, if you look at that term, cannon fodder. You know, pretty much a lot of these people are gonna be cannon fodder for this recession that's coming. You know, and this is something that we've been telling you, you know, from our apostles and elders on down. We've been letting you know that this is the trajectory that America is heading. You know, America is on its way out. America is on the brink of collapse, right? And one of the signs that we see of it falling is through its economy, right? The job market, you know, inflation, right? And as of now, we see, you know, signs of a recession incoming, right? Now, let me get this real quick. As a matter of fact, this came to my mind. Um, this is Jeremiah 51. I'll start at 8. It says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her pain, if so she may be healed. Right? And we see in Babylon, aka America, spiraling the drain right now. Right? Our Apostle Kabar always talks about how America is spiraling the drain. You know, there's no way to save America. You know, you have your economists doing their quantitative easing, doing um, trying to control what is taking place as far as the economy, but there's nothing really that can save America. You know, you had Donald Trump, what was it, in 2020, around that time period, handing out stimulus checks, so, you know, in order to so-called save, you know, the economy or boost the economy. But at the end of the day, none of this is going to help because the Most High has sanctioned for this place to fall, right? The scriptures talk about how who have resisted the Lord's will, you know, and America is going to be like any other kingdom before it. You know, it has its time, you know, to rise and establish itself in a dominant position. But now it's time for it to go. You know, everything that had the beginning had the end, right? What does it say? But the end is and the end is manifest. Yeah, the end is manifesting right before our eyes. It is being made clear and obvious that we're at the end of this thing. You know, America's on its last leg, on its last toe, I should say, right? But anyway, let me read this. Verse 9. It says, We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country, for her judgment reaches unto heaven and is lifted up even to the sky. So once we start seeing this recession coming, this economy start to dwindle, start to decay, people can't buy shit, people can't go to or receive checks or even find a job. We're going to start seeing a lot of these nations start fleeing back to their own country because they're seeing that the American dream and the land, a so-called land of opportunity, that there's going to be no more opportunities in this place. The American dream is dead, you know. and everything is becoming more and more, uh, 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 I guess you could say, third world, right? But it says, let me read this back, verse 9. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her. Let us go, everyone, into his own country, for her judgment reaches unto heaven, and is lifted up even up to the lifted up even to the skies. Right. So the Most High hasn't forgotten, all the shit that this man has done. You know, all the shit that America has done, the bloodshed, the wickedness. You know what I'm saying? There's so much things that this place has to pay for. Um, and that is coming by the way of these plagues, right? The scriptures talk about how the Most High shall plague Egypt as before. In the book of Revelations, it talks about how this place is spiritually Egypt, spiritually Sodom, and also, this place is spiritually Babylon, spiritual Nineveh, right? But the point being, um, is that this place is on its way out. Them curses, them judgments, them plagues is hitting America now, right? And the prophets are out here to tell you, to warn you, Jakes, you so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, you Israelites, to turn back to the Lord, so you won't partake in the fall of the system. So you won't partake in the collapse, in the I guess you could say the bitter that's about to happen here in America. Because we're all going to partake in the bitter, but the thing is that the Most High is going to have a hedge of protection around those that believe in Him, right? Those that believe on Him, on Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, there's going to be a hedge of protection around them. They're going to be protected. They're going to be preserved, right? In Isaiah, was it 65 or 55? I think it's 65 and 13. Let me see. Right. It says, therefore, thus saith the Lord power, behold, my servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servant shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servant shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. Behold, my servant shall sing for joy of heart, but ye shall cry for sorrow of heart, and shall howl for vexation of spirit. So those who ain't in the right spirit, those who ain't uh, um, with the Lord, you're going to be howling for vexation of spirit in this time that we're coming into. Distress, anguish, pain, suffering. That's all these people are going to be experiencing in this time, right? But anyway, let me go back to the article. So it says, I'm reading it back. It says, fodder for a recession. Top economist Mark Zandi warns about so many Americans already living on the financial edge in a K-shaped economy. And we did a video, me and the brothers, um, here in GMS Charlotte, the brother Atazawam and the brother Quana Watts. We did a video going into this K-shaped economy, um, and you have the K-shaped economy, but now on top of this, you have a recession, right? So, or an incoming recession, I should say. According to uh, the economists, right? An incoming recession is on its way. When you watch that video of the K-shaped economy, it's letting you know that anybody that's, uh, I guess, you have the lower class, the middle class, the high class, right? Well, anybody below, anybody middle class or below, you're gonna start seeing, you know, a wealth gap. Anybody that's high income earning, they're getting higher, they're getting more richer. But anybody below that line, you know, it start getting more poorer, right? So this is the type of economy that we're operating in right now, and now what we're going to see is a recession. So things is going to get even worse, right? But anyway, let me read into this. It says Mark Zandi is worried that the labor market no longer has a buffer. So many Americans are already living on the financial edge, right? People um, can't afford their note on their car, struggling to make a payment on the rent, to put food on the table. You know, people are cutting out certain luxuries that they used to do, or taking on another job, a part-time job. You know what I'm saying? People are already living on the edge. Some people already are still in debt through what happened during the whole vid thing, right? So people are through right now, but things is about to get worse. But it says the chief economist for Moody's Analytics told Fortune, if they start to pull back, that's fodder for a recession. It says the stark assessment comes as hiring has stalled, unemployment is rising, especially for the most valuable, not valuable, vulnerable workers. The layoff announcements are piling up, and who are the most vulnerable? You Jakes, right? But it says to Zandy, the next stage is already visible. We if we can if we actually do see layoffs pick up, he told Fortune, then it certainly would be a jobs recession, right? So he goes into, saying some things here, but I want to skip down right here. So it says layoffs are coming. Zandy warns. It says, so for Zandy, if ADP offers a snapshot of the present, the data from Challenger Gray and Christmas hints at what may lie ahead. Employers have announced 1.1 million layoffs this year, a figure surpassed only during the pandemic shock of 2020 and the depths of the Great Recession. It says these announcements are global and not all will materialize as US cuts, Zandy advised. It says yet he considers their scale meaningful because they reflect decisions made months in advance of actual separations. So it's a lot of layoffs, man. It's a lot of people without jobs. So what are they going to do? And then you have AI replacing people in certain jobs, certain fields, right? Just adding even more. And then you had earlier this year you had the whole Doge thing, lay off even more people. Man, this shit is getting ridiculous, man. Soon there's gonna be no jobs out here for people to go, and be able to work and put food on the table, get a paycheck, you know what I'm saying? Be able to live. Soon you're gonna start seeing them tent cities start popping up even more again, right? And really crime start to rise up, which I'm gonna go into that as well. But I'm gonna finish this out. It says that would suggest that there are layoffs coming, he said. They seemingly have not occurred yet. The disconnect between rising layoff announcements and historically low unemployment insurance claims feels increasingly incongruous to him, and he suspects one reason may be that early cuts are falling on higher income workers who receive severance or wait longer before filing for benefits, obscuring the first phase of the weakening. It says pressure is also building in pockets of the labor market that are typically harbingers of broader stress. Unemployment has risen for young workers and for black workers, both groups that tend to see both groups tend to see deterioration earlier in the cycle, Zandy said. Industries that rely heavily on foreign labor, including construction, logistics, and agriculture, are grappling with the tighter supply of workers owing to deportations, placing additional strain on small firms. Right. So America's through all around, man. That's just the way it is. That's just the way things is looking. America's looking through, man. There's no hope. What do they say? There's no, what they call it, the light at the end of the tunnel. People don't see the light at the end of the tunnel no more, man. That shit is dark as hell, and that's all it is. That's all you're gonna see as we get further and further, you know, in these coming years. Lord willing, we ain't here that long, but in these coming months, we're gonna start seeing things get darker and darker and darker. You know, America's fate is gonna be made clearer and clearer and clearer as we progress in these days, right? So anyway, let's go ahead and get some precepts. Let's get Ecclesiastes. You know, we always get this Ecclesiastes 12:3. It says, "In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the and who are the keepers of the house? The economists, right? What do we just have? Mark Zandi, a top economist, predict uh, 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 a negative prediction on the economy of America, right? So it says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and why are they going to tremble? Because they're going to start seeing the economy start to weaken and eventually crash. But it says, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out the windows darken, right? So there ain't going to be no jobs. The grinding is going to cease, right? Best believe people going to be looking dark, man. People going to be looking, you know what I mean, dark. I mean, they're going to be like in distress. People going to be looking like hopeless, man. Verse 4, it says, and doors shall be shut in the streets. Um, it says, and doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. Right. So pretty much everybody's gonna start closing the doors. All these factories, all these stores, you know, all these places where you go and buy merchandise and goods from, they're gonna start closing up because no product is coming in. There's no production, right? There's no jobs. There's no the market is going to be stagnant. It's going to be pretty much on a standstill, right? But really, you know, it's going to be a it's going to be it's a process to this, right? It's a process to this. So it's going to take some time for this to happen, of course. But the point is that this is going to happen. This is inevitably going to take place, right? You can't stop prophecy. You know, and from our elders and apostles on down, you know, we've been telling you, you know, warning our people of a lot of these things that's going to take place, and a lot of these things have or being made evident, as I said in the beginning. You know, things are made manifest, things are being made clear that we're in the end. The signs are there, right? And if you can't see it, then ultimately the eyesight wasn't given to you. You know, ultimately you're going to continue to be blind until the end, unless the Most High opens you up. You know, opens your mind to these things. But anyway, let's get Isaiah 19 and verse 15. It says, neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. In that day shall Egypt be like unto woman, and this shall be afraid and fear because of the shaking of the hand of the Lord of hosts, which she shaketh over it. Right. So because no work, people are gonna be scared, man. People are gonna be worried, anxious, you know, anxiety is gonna take hold of them. Fear is going to take hold of them because they're going to be wondering, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How am I going to get gas? How am I going to eat, drink? How am I, you know what I'm saying? How am I going to feed my family? How am I going to feed my children? How am I going to go by day to day? Because a lot of people, they don't trust in the Lord. You know, they don't trust in, you know, or have faith uh, uh, um, in the fact that the Most High is going to take care of them, that the Most High got them. Most people are too into this world that um, they rely on that check. Their faith is dependent upon how much money they got. You see? Which is why our apostles always say when people got nothing to lose, they're going to lose it. You see? And this all goes into what I mentioned earlier, um, pretty much the state of society, how it's going to be, how this recession is going to affect people, right? How things is going to start looking more and more grimmer out here, man. Things is going to be looking cold. And the scriptures talk about how the love of many shall wax cold. Well, this is a good catalyst for this to happen, right? So I got this right here in the chat GPT. I asked it how a recession how a recession affects a country. It says one, economic effects, lower economic growth, falling GDP, which is gross domestic product, impact on business, lower sales and profits, layoffs and hiring freezes. Um, right, people pretty much people ain't gonna be hiring. A lot of layoffs. You have now what is called a forever layoff, where they continuously lay off people uh, um, instead of doing a mass layoff. But even now, that some companies are announcing mass layoffs. You had Verizon, you had Amazon, and other companies too. Um, and if you watch that video that I made on the K-shaped economy, you'll see it because we went into that. But anyway, it says increase in business closures. Right, businesses shutting down. Hey, people closing their doors. Right, the doors shall be shut in the streets, as Ecclesiastes 12:4 says. But it says impact on workers, rising unemployment, wage stagnation or pay cuts. That's what we're seeing right now, right? Wage stagnation. It says more competition for each job, right? People nowadays using AI to fill out their resumes, having a leg up on other people who got their applications out there. But it says impact on government, lower tax revenue, higher spending on support programs, higher national debt. So that's gonna that's just all this is gonna do is increase the national debt. So this all goes back to what I was saying. There's no healing of Babylon. This place is done. This place is through. America's on the brink of collapse. And this is something that they've been planning for anyway, because they're trying to usher in this NWO, right? This new world order where um, everything's going to be digital, money digital. There's going to be no cash. There's going to be no physical dollar, no FRNs. Everything is going to be, you know, uh, uh, what they call it. I forgot the name of it. But pretty much the point is everything's going to be through digital currency, right? So it says impact on society. Here's the point: increased stress and mental health issues. People going through some heavy stress, man. People going through some mental health issues, man. Developing that crash out syndrome. This is financial pressure raises anxiety, depression, and family stress. Right, among families, you're gonna start seeing infighting. You know, you're gonna start seeing some family members kicking out other family members because they don't have a job, because they're a burden unto them. Right, heavy division is coming. So it says lower consumer confidence. People save instead of spend because they're uncertain about the future. Right, we're seeing that. Like I said, people cutting out um, certain luxuries that they once comfortable with spending money on. It says increasing crime in some areas. Economic hardship can sometimes lead to more theft or fraud. Right, people uh 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 getting their purses snatched, their backpack snatched. You know, getting jumped, getting beat down, being beat down for their jewelry, whatever. Breaking and entering into houses. Right. So it says long-term effects: delay in major life decisions. People postpone buying a home, starting a business, having children, right? And even now, having children, they're saying that I forgot about what year. I think it might be 2030 or 2032. They're saying that the population is going to start going on a decline, like the deaths per birth ratio. There's going to be more deaths than births. That's what they're saying. But it says going to college, right? People ain't going to college nowadays. People that do go to college, are people that really have money, or even if they don't have money, these people that do go to college, they're really delusional. in thinking that they're gonna be able to find a job in this type of economy. You know, um, I believe in that same video that we did on the K-shaped economy, we went into how uh, um, by 2026, that year is gonna be the worst for any college graduate as far as finding a job, right? So things are looking bad all over. It says slower innovation, shifts in job market. Some industries shrink permanently, while others, tech, automation, remote work, grow. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much the point right here on this. You know, and all this, like I said, all this is taking place because of this. I'm gonna get it real quick. Second Ezra 8 and verse 50. For many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. You see? So because majority of the people here operate with this sense of pride and this sense of delusion that the Most High uh, 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 isn't a man of judgment, isn't a man of law, right? People feel like they can do whatever they want. People feel like they can just, you know, act any kind of way, rebel against the Lord, blaspheme, you know, the Lord any type of way. You know, this is the pride that people walk in. Jake is in the mindset that, you know, he don't gotta serve the Lord. Jake is in his mindset that he's in America, he can do what he wants, America will live forever, yada yada yada. You see? So that great pride is the reason why all these punishments and plagues and judgments are prepared for America, man. Prepare for the whole world. Because this is gonna be global, man. This ain't gonna be, you know, solely an American thing. No, this is gonna be global, right? But we know most of the things that's gonna happen is gonna be happening here in America. This is gonna be the hot spot, right? And then eventually the nukes, the ICBM missiles. Majority of them are gonna be hitting here, America, right? But anyway, don't want to drag this out too long. I really wanted this to be short, but I mean, it is what it is. That's the spirit, you know. Spirit is like the wind. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing His word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Until the next time, I'm gonna say Shalom, Kwam Yasha Allah.